All right. Welcome to Rapid Fire Manufacturing with Andrew Henry.
Happy to be here. Thanks for coming by the shop.
Absolutely. We're at Henry Holsters in Spencer, Indiana.
Yep.
So
This is our very high-tech little tiny office. And so it's a pleasure to have you here. Gave you a shop tour, talked about a lot of manufacturing stuff, and excited to be on the podcast. So where do we start?
let's start with your background. How did you get into the industry? Like going from violin.
Yeah, so the basic background is I'm a classically trained violin and viola player with a degree in violin making, and I also had a background growing up in woodworking. So I enjoyed making things, I experienced making things. After college, I started a company building custom electric guitars and basses. That didn't take off very well. I didn't really have my business head on yet, but I knew I wanted to learn CNC machining at some point. It had been in my mind for a long time. I hadn't had a lot of exposure to it, but then I had a chance to make some gun holsters around 2008, 2009. And compared to building custom guitars or violins, gun holsters are relatively simple as a product to understand, don't have nearly as many complexities or variables. And so I started making gun holsters, and that turned into a small side gig. And then in 2014, I bought my first CNC machine to help me automate some of the more repetitive parts of holster production, and found I love CNC machining. And in that first year, with that one little desktop CNC router, I was able to do enough additional work by having that tool that I could then buy my first legit vertical machining center. I bought a Brother S700 in 2015. And from there, it was off to the races. So we hired first employees in 2017. Now we are in Spencer, Indiana, with just under 30 employees in about a 14,000 square foot shop. We have 3, 4, and 5 axis machining and lathe, so mill and lathe. We also have a fulfillment center for shipping holsters all over the country, and an entire staff that does industrial laser cutting, sewing, holster manufacture, some contract metal machining work, a whole range of stuff. It's been a really interesting adventure. Not at all where I expected to end up. In high school, my 2 tracks that I was thinking of was either going to become an English teacher or an orchestral musician. And now I own a manufacturing company, and I'm really happy. It's fun. So
That's awesome. But one of the things that jumped out as soon as we started going through the shop is a lot of like lean principles out there,
Yep.
right? Whether it's poker yoke or just the way that you have some stuff taped off. How did you get into lean manufacturing?
So I got into lean by reading Paul Akers' book, 2-Second Lean, and that was probably 2017 or 2018-ish, around there. And if you are familiar with lean, there's fascinating history. A lot of it goes back to the reconstruction of Japan following World War II. Their economy was devastated and needed to be rebuilt quickly. And there were a number of American industrialists and academics like Edward Deming, among others, who came over from the US and basically got to do a cold restart of the Japanese manufacturing economy. And in a lot of cases, it's hard to do certain things incrementally. You need to press the big reset button and start over. Japan had an incredible opportunity in the wake of the devastation caused by bombing to completely reinvent their industrial base. And they did. And they took a lot of the lessons that they were learning from American manufacturing and applied them really, really well. And that have since then become, best in the world at a lot of kinds of manufacturing, now to the point where a lot of American companies look to Japan to figure out, how do we do this more efficiently? Mm-hmm. But the books like the Toyota Way that describe the Toyota production system, there is a very sort of academic, high-level approach to lean that deals with big systems, large companies, complex supply chains. Paul Akers wrote a much simpler book called 2-Second Lean. And the whole idea is find the improvements that are available in your company, fix what bugs you, make the work better and easier every day. And that immediately appealed to me because I've always been kind of a systems-oriented thinker. I look at things and don't just accept them at face value, but I'm looking at them and thinking about them and analyzing them and going, how could this be better? How could it be different? What are we doing here that we don't need to be doing at all? And what 2-Second Lean gave me was a vocabulary and a set of concepts that made sense of a lot of things that I'd felt but couldn't articulate clearly. It was like finding your people. I'm like, oh, this makes sense. That's how I want to work. And since then, as we've gradually built the team, basic things like having full team morning meetings, focusing on daily small incremental improvements, really teaching people how to understand what part of the work adds value for the customer and what part doesn't. The majority of the work we do isn't actually adding any real value. all the time spent moving parts around the shop in bins, that doesn't add any value. It just takes time and effort, and the parts aren't changing. Like when we're machining something, the value is being added when chips are being made, when the holes are being drilled, when materials being milled away. That's when the product is changing from a billet into a part. When it's being bubble wrapped and counted and packed in a carton and shipped off to coating, none of that. It's all necessary. We can't get the parts nitrided without shipping them to a nitriter. But all those things, while they require a lot of effort and time and energy and money, they're not actually adding value. And so anywhere we can in the company, just not do things. Like, you know what? We don't need to spend time doing that. We can find a way to just reduce or eliminate that step entirely. It's amazing how much stuff you do without really thinking about it. And then when you analyze it, you go, that's actually not necessary. And if we could find a way to avoid doing that entirely, like even just this week, we have this one little component we make. It's a very simple thing. It has 2 components and a grommet. It's really basic. And we were making them in batches of 50. And 2 of my employees were working together to 3D print a little jig where you could stack up sets of 10 of one of the components so you could quickly count your 50. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50.
Oh, wow.
And I said, well, that's certainly faster than going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But I asked as I was walking by, I'm like, why do we need to count them? Do we actually have to have those in sets of 50, or is 50 just the lot size we decided to make those little components in at some point? And they both kind of went, I guess it's just a number we picked at some point. And I said, we've got this component we make and a component we buy, and we add them together and fasten them. How are the components we buy packaged? They're packaged in sets of 20. And I went, what if we just change the batch size from 50 to 40 and you just do 2 packages of components and nothing has to get counted? The counting isn't adding any value at all. It's just extra effort. And as long as the parts are in stock, the world doesn't care whether we make them 40 at a time or 50 at a time. It's like, how much should we do? Well, what size does it already come in at? Do that and move on. And so we were all chuckling, like they were designing this thing and 3D printing this thing and trying to get it just right to give them exactly 10 every time they filled it to the top. And then you just ask a couple of questions and go, is it really necessary? And then in a lot of cases, all over the place in manufacturing shops, when you dig into it, we're spending an enormous amount of time and energy and money on things that simply aren't necessary. As a machinist or hand excelling work holding, like the advantage of 0 point is not that a self-centering vise holds tighter than a traditional single station vise. They're vices. But the ability to take it out, put it back, and have it be functionally in exactly the same place, not having to get an indicator out and square the vise to the table and then torque it gradually and confirm that it's square. It's like, I take it out, I have some other setup, I put it back, we're ready to run. Because the fastest person in the world at squaring up a curved vise on a table, they're still not adding value. It has to happen. The vise has to be square, but you're not actually making anything when you're dragging that dial indicator across the hard jaw on your curved vise. And so if you can not do that anymore, great.
So you're giving your employees, you're kind of, I guess, empowering, maybe that's the word, to find things and improve on. Because you talked about it earlier, it's like these incremental changes over the course of a year. How much does that add up to?
It adds up to a lot. So I'm trying to think what book it was in. Somebody was observing in a company that's done a lot of improvement and growth over time, that if your company relies on one single major competitive advantage, like you have a trade secret that is the sauce for your company, a competitor can steal that. But if you have thousands of tiny little improvements in the company, those are so small that they're functionally invisible to anybody outside the company, and they can't be copied. The analogy we use here is you can look at somebody's 500-pound deadlift, but you can't steal it.
Like that.
You only get there by starting at 180, 185, 190, 195, knowing the mechanics of how a deadlift works and watching people who are best in the world at deadlift doesn't allow you to cut the line. And so we want the competitive advantage of having all those extra things that create friction, that waste time, that drain energy and add cost. Anytime we can trim those down and get rid of them, we just run lighter, faster, more productive without having to work harder. The goal is not everybody put your nose to the grindstone and work as hard as possible. The goal is to make the work progressively easier over time. Every time we find an obstacle or a point of friction that causes disruption or struggle, we want to address that, not just say, concentrate harder.
Mhm.
Man, I'm really struggling with this. Well, just focus. No, let's figure out a way to make the system assist you. Like, I'm a terrible bowler, but if you give me, if I'm bumper bowling
Yeah.
and I can't gutter ball it, I can still hit strikes. Like, anytime we can put guardrails on our processes, and this is where the phrase poke-yoke comes in,
Yeah.
it means error proofing. If you have parts that can load the right way or the wrong way in a vise, machining it or adding the feature in the vise jaw so that the part can only load in the correct orientation, it's amazing often how little effort and time those fixes cost. And if you've ever had an operator scrap a whole batch of parts on Op 2 because they didn't realize that those two holes weren't quite symmetrical, and they're like, oh yeah, it's a rectangle, tomato, and they put them in, and you go, oh no. It actually needed to be that one orientation, and those parts, we have to go saw more bar stock and start over. The work involved on the front end of building guardrails in the process, and then giving your people not just the autonomy, but the expectation as a company that when they encounter a problem, the goal is to solve it, not work around it, not ignore it, not grit your teeth and struggle through it, but actually solve it. We can't solve every problem, and some things are just outside the scope. Like $100,000 fix might not make sense for this size job, but in a lot of cases, the solutions are cheap. They're easily available, and the people doing the work come up with the best solutions, almost always, because they're not trying to be super clever and make a Rube Goldberg machine. They just want to figure out, how can I make sure to not load this part backwards? How can I make sure that I line these up so when I crimp this part, it doesn't crush the component?
Yeah.
How can I make this so that I'm not looking at every one and like, how do I just make it so it lines up and it's right? And the ways to do that, there's a million ways to do that. And if you consistently teach your people to do that, we've had a lot of people come out of other manufacturing environments where for either regulatory reasons or company culture reasons or management reasons, they were essentially forbidden from changing anything. And if you encountered a problem, your job was to grit your teeth and just deal with it.
Yeah.
And that is so corrosive to company morale. Individual people get really burnt out and ground down if you make them keep doing things the same stupid way every time. Like, there are jobs that when they come back, we love it. We're like, oh man, we crush on that job. The fixturing's awesome. The yield is great. The tool life is fantastic. It's fun to watch. It even sounds nice. Like, I love everything about that job.
Yeah.
And then you'll have jobs come back and you're like, that job is a pain in the butt. It's super fussy. And it's always a hassle, and that one tool wears out super fast. And if you only ever struggle with the same things over and over and over, why keep doing that?
Mhm.
Nobody wants to keep doing that. Nobody signs up to like, oh yeah, I'd like to struggle in a machine shop for the next 25 years and then retire. I don't know
Hopefully
anybody
not.
who wants that. That's nobody's vision.
Yeah.
So
So you get there through incremental changes?
yeah, so one of the basic ideas in 2-second lean is fix what bugs you. And that is both a mandate, but also permission. If something bothers you, take action to address it. Don't just ignore it. The number of things that we ignore, like you stub your toe on something, you're like, you stub your toe the 100th time on that same thing, you're an idiot. You're like, every time. It's like, well, you could have changed it. If every time you do this one job, you always run into this problem, fix it. And we want to give people both permission and the expectation. It isn't acceptable to ignore problems. It is expected that everybody will bring their creativity to the table and help contribute to solutions because we all win together. There isn't a situation where one part of our company suffers and that benefits another part of our company. If half the team is miserable, it doesn't help the other half of the team.
Yeah.
And so the idea of fixing what bugs you and modeling that, and we show it to the entire team. So we have a company-wide chat, and we post photos and videos in there every single day of things that we're changing and improving. Now, that can get chaotic. You have to have some SOPs. And there are some things where like you have to develop standard work and you can't have everybody change it every time they do it, but you always want to be open and flexible to someone come out with a better way of doing the thing. And we borrow and steal tons of ideas from all kinds of places. And I don't ever want to stop changing. We can't change everything every time, but if we are doing a job we've been doing for 5 years and we haven't changed anything about it in 5 years, I know we're sleeping on that job. That there's clearly something that will have surfaced in that time where we go, hey, we could really make this easier by changing how we handle the parts or changing how we work hold the parts. Or we could, even cutting tools in the past 5 years, coatings, edge geometry, all kinds of things have become available. You can't stand still. And it can be overwhelming to think to fix everything all at once. Like, no, today you just have to lift 190 pounds. And then next week, 195. And if you keep doing that, you will get to a deadlift that nobody can steal. And as a company, I feel we do that part of it well. There are many areas where as a company, we're not strong. But that consistent momentum of we encounter problems, and the sooner you act on them, the smaller they are. If you wait till a problem is huge, it gets really expensive, really exhausting, really disruptive to fix. It's just like PM on a machine.
Mm-hmm.
If you wait until that spindle is dead to deal with it, you're going to have a bad time. If you keep the machine clean, if you keep it lubricated, if you keep the machine calibrated, you're going to have a much better time. And so we're always trying to put in those little increments of work on a regular basis, nickels in the bank every day. And at the end, you're that high school librarian who dies, and all of a sudden people are like, he left $1.2 million as an endowment to the school. Where'd he go with It's like nickels in the bank for 70 years every day. And you can do amazing things. And you don't have to have wildly creative, genius, inventive people. People are really good at recognizing the little problems they encounter day to day. And the more practice they get solving them the first time they show up, that momentum builds. And it becomes incredibly powerful in the team and in the company.
How are you getting the company to engage in that too? Are you recommending books to read?
So we do have a lean library, and we do have a lean book club. So in the company, every month, we're always working through at least one book together as a team. It's optional, and about half the team participates. But we have a daily morning meeting, and at that morning meeting, we go over production schedule, new product development, any quality misses or defects that showed up in the previous 24 hours of manufacturing, physical sample, pass this around. Everybody talk about it, understand what's wrong with this part.
Yeah.
And then the person who produced the defect or found the defect explains, okay, it's this part, the defect happened in this process, and here's what I think we can change about the process. Like yesterday, we had a part that dropped off a cooling rack and damaged. And this morning, we passed it around and looked at it in the morning meeting. And the suggestion was, can we put a little safety guard around that cooling rack so that a part that's this tall can't tip over and fall off? It's like, yeah, obviously. Like, we should do that today. We haven't done it yet. I'm going to do it after he leaves. But something as simple as everybody putting hands on a part that we just produced that was bad and going, we don't need to tell the person who was doing the work, be more careful next time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, if you put the part on the cooling rack and the part is a little top heavy and a little tall and it can fall off, we need to change the cooling rack so the part can't fall off. It's like, obviously, it's going to cost $1 worth of material. We'll probably just use some scrap plastic sheet and just bend it, put a little guard around the thing. Easy. Problem solved. That problem won't happen again.
Is it crazy how obviously unobvious certain things are?
Well,
I don't know if I phrased that correctly, but there's certain things you're like, why would I not do that in the first place? If you decide to pursue lean manufacturing and you commit to yourself that you're going to not ignore problems, not procrastinate, not put them off, but speak very honestly and directly about them and address them and try to fix them immediately, you will spend the rest of your manufacturing life going, I'm an idiot. I can't believe we didn't fix that before. I can't believe we did it that dumb way for that long. Yeah.
When there was this easy, obvious solution that fixes that problem permanently. Every time you discover one of those, you just go, like, the amount of time we spent doing that the dumb way. Oh my gosh. Like, I've even apologized to employees like, I'm so sorry we didn't fix that sooner. This is so much better now. I'm so sorry you had to do thousands of that part, that older, dumb way, because we're all here together. Like, there are very few jobs in the shop that I haven't done myself at some point. Now that the business is bigger and there's more variety in what we do, but 5 years ago, every single job in the shop I could do and had done at some point. And so you share everybody's pain. If they're struggling with something, you're like, oh yeah, man, I remember that job. That job it's kind of frustrating to line those things up. It's really hard to hold that fast and you can't really see it and you keep dropping it. It's like, what if we built a little magnetic thing that lines up with the corner and holds the hex nut in the right place so it can't spin? And you're like, I can't believe we assembled thousands of those the dumb way. And that sense, having a sense of humor, like, you're doing tons of stupid things in your company today. You're going to continue to do tons of stupid things in your company tomorrow and next year. But you can do fewer dumb things, or at least different dumb things next year than you're doing now, and have at least the variety of change. We've fixed these problems, and there is no end. Every time you solve something, another thing appears to take its place. But it's like cleaning up your yard. Like when it's completely overgrown and disaster, you don't even notice the junk that's laying in the tall grass. You weed whack it down and you're like, oh man, there's a bunch of rocks here. And you pick those up and then you mow it. And like everything you pull away reveals the next layer of things that have been there the whole time, but just couldn't be addressed because they were buried. So it is exciting. And our company is, many of the processes we currently run compared to how we did them 5-7 years ago, the current version is miraculously easier, miraculously more accurate, more consistent. And yet in no process anywhere in our entire shop have we reached the apex, the absolute pinnacle. This could never be done better. This is the ultimate.
Yeah.
But we joke, we use the term the bad old days. And our longer running employees who have seen, 10 versions of this process will go, oh man, do you remember how we did those parts in the bad old days? And it's hilarious because there were certain things we did that were absolute torture. And then we gradually made them easier and easier and easier. And there's still work. Mm-hmm. But we watch an employee doing them now and we're like, he doesn't have any idea how good he has it. Like we used to have to fight that part for hours to get those done. And he's just like, oh, yep, I have this fixture. It lines it all up and everything drops in place and then I'm done. And I'm like, yeah, it's beautiful. But it also is like every parent who looks at their kid and is like, you have no idea.
Yeah.
You have no idea how good you have it today. In the bad old days, I had to torque every one of those with my bare hand.
Yeah, exactly.
So I've got a question for you.
Okay.
You go into a lot of other shops. When you see shops that are struggling more than others, are there any consistent patterns you see that are addressable where you go, I've seen this before. These shops are all struggling in this way?
I think the most common thing that I've come across is people thinking they can do things the old way and not adapt.
Yep. Well, I mean, there's the modern CNC world has changed so dramatically in the past 30 years. Mm-hmm. 30 years ago, palletized 5-axis was not unheard of, but it was not common. You would not find your local small shop with a Grobe or a Hermla or a Matsura.
Yeah.
That was not a thing. But that idea that as long as we're making money, the way we're doing it is good enough.
So
that is a key.
And you bring that up too, brought that up earlier, I think too, like just simply investing in a tombstone and being able to hold more parts. I know some people like don't want to invest in that. It's like you can hold more parts and run your machine longer. So that's another common thing I see.
So for me as a self-taught machinist, kind of crunching my way through it bit by bit, first it was multiple vices and get really good at quickly constructing efficient soft jaws. Mm-hmm. That was awesome. And then I got into things like Pearson pallets, where you could then have higher density, but still just 3-axis work holding.
Yeah.
And then you look at 4-axis stuff and go, wait a second, I can put multiple parts on this thing and get at all these other sides in a single setup. That's amazing. And then 5-axis just blows the doors off because you're like, I can deburr the entire thing in the machine almost. And when you layer on top of that palletization and 0-point work holding and investing in good quality tool holders, not batches of old Cat 40s you bought off eBay, but good quality tool holders, understanding that there are cuts that require your best tool holding. And there it's like, okay, that's a clearance hole. Put it in an ER, call it. I don't care. It's going to be fine. It's always about a sense of proportion. But if you sleep on it and just go, okay, our shop is basically the same. Our equipment and our programming, our work holding, our tool holding, everything is basically the same as it was 5 years ago. Same coolant, same cutters, same everything. You are leaving money on the table, but more than that, you're letting your business become increasingly vulnerable to everybody else who's going out and learning the newest thing. Like if you're a shop owner and you're not at least learning how to use AI at this point, the number of things that your competitors are going to speed past you in, they're not going to take over your 5-axis programming. But the number of other administrative tasks and repetitive things that you spend time on that are going to be able to be automated through AI and they'll be done faster and better than you do them yourself currently. If you're sleeping on that, you're going to get snuck by other companies who are just looking at their processes and going, I add value at the machine. I do not add value reviewing all these POs. Yeah. Just go through them and then surface any that seem like a problem. I'll check those ones and the rest of them, automate it. There's tons of that. The overhead of admin work is my least favorite part of owning a business. Reviewing documents. Like every time our insurance company says, hey, we're updating your policy, read this 150-page packet. I'm like, kill me. Like, you changed a few things in here. I don't want to read this whole thing. AI, review this, compare it to a prior policy, point out the places it's changed, summarize it for me, and give me page numbers to review in detail. I'm not going to make one of my employees read the whole thing.
Yeah.
I just want to find out what changed. Tons of stuff like that.
Amazing. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you. I'm most active on Instagram at Henry Holsters. I also co-host the Lean Built podcast with Jay Pearson from Pearson Work Holding. So we drop a new episode every Monday morning. You can find us on Apple, Spotify, etc. I'm more active on LinkedIn this past year or so. LinkedIn seems like there's a lot more interesting conversation and connections happening there now than there were 5 years ago. I'll be at IMTS. So if you're at IMTS and you see me and Jay walking around, definitely grab us and say hello. But yeah, I got to meet Nick Gelder and some of the other Hennick folks. I was down at Boomtastic.